Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Well, now, on with our programmes for Christmas Eve, and at 11 o'clock, Elvis Presley stars in one of his most popular and famous films, GI Blues.
It's Christmas time, and every single year, we all have our favourite little traditions that we celebrate either ourselves or with our families during the most wonderful time of the year. For myself, Christmas wouldn't be complete without a family trip to the movies on Christmas Eve, a nice event to gather all the family and gear us up for the following day. But did you know that over in Sweden, there's a televisual tradition that has been not only running for decades, but practically holds the attention of the entire nation? Is it a speech from the Swedish royalty? Nah. Is it a broadcast from the current government? Absolutely not. A live production of a Swedish folk classic? Nuh-uh. What grips the Swedish every year on Christmas Eve isn't a human, but an animated duck. This is the story of how Donald Duck took over the Swedish Christmas. When Mickey Mouse first made his debut in Steamboat Willie back in 1928, he would become the face of the Walt Disney Company. But in the following years, other colourful characters would join him. One of these, introduced in 1934, was Donald Fauntleroy Duck. Easily agitated, forever expressive, Donald worked his way into the hearts and minds of viewers the world over, arguably becoming second in popularity only behind the Mighty Mouse himself. 25 years after his debut, Donald continued to pop up in shorts and some Disney features, cemented as one of the central troupe under the House of Mouse. But strangely, one territory in which Donald proved far more popular than Mickey was Sweden. So much so that he would become the face of what would become one of Disney's most notable Christmas specials that they ever produced. It's December 1958, and the new season of the recently rebranded Walt Disney Presents is airing weekly on ABC. The show contains clips of classic Disney cartoons, sneak peeks at upcoming works, and even some segments featuring the main man himself, Walt Disney. For the last episode of the year, it was decided that it would be a 1-hour Christmas special, to be titled as From All of Us to All of You. This special would follow a similar format to the main show, albeit with a more festive flavour. From All of Us to All of You would air frequently in the years following, and became a festive favourite amongst audiences. It would eventually be released on VHS, Betamax and even Laserdisc in 1986, allowing viewers to treasure the special forever, or for as long as their VCRs decided to function properly. But despite its success in its native America, this was nothing compared to the impact it would have over in Sweden. Television over in Scandinavia was a bit further behind compared to the United States and the United Kingdom. Here in Britain, we'd first had television introduced to us in 1936. It would be another 2 decades before Swedish television, or simply SVT, began broadcasting to its local population. Most of the programming shown was, naturally, made and produced in Sweden, and whilst foreign programs were bought and shown on SVT, they were few and far between compared to the homegrown stuff. This is where Donald and Friends would come in, and why it would be an advantage to their instant and enduring popularity at Christmas. 4 years after its initial introduction, in 1960, Swedish television would gear up to broadcast the Disney special, From All of Us to All of You, for the very first time for their audiences. This was a rare chance for viewers to watch cartoons on television, let alone Disney-made ones, the company associated with the gold standard when it came to animation at the time. The hour-long special would showcase the following live shorts: Santa's Workshop from 1932, Clown of the Jungle from 1947, Mickey's Trailer and Ferdinand the Bull, both from 1938, and then Pluto's Christmas Tree, the most recent of the shorts, from 1952. To support them, clips from some of Disney's features were shown, from films like Snow White, Cinderella, and Bambi. A classic Christmas compilation to say the least, but one that, just like in the US, proved extremely successful. The fluid animation, coupled with the festive nature of the programming, narrated and hosted by local Swedish personalities, helped From All of Us to All of You become an instant hit. Those who had a television eagerly tuned in, and considering there was only the one channel available, it wasn't like there was any televisual alternative. The special was a hit all across Scandinavia, but as the 60s progressed, it was Sweden that quickly emerged to be its most popular market. This was helped as until 1969, SVT was the only TV channel in operation, so whilst the popularity of the medium continued to expand, viewers would have to make do with whatever was on. And given as mentioned, the fact that American-based cartoons, particularly those from Disney, were a rarity, this made the appeal of the special, now known in Sweden as
Kalle Anka och hans vänner önskar god jul,
even more enticing. That new name translates to Donald Duck and his friends wish you a Merry Christmas. Funny really, how Donald has become the character associated with the special in the region, yet he's far from being the main star, and doesn't feature in it all that much. A testament to how the Duck's popularity was able to not only eclipse the main mouse of Disney, but also allow him top billing in the title. Every year it would be shown on or just after 3 PM on the 24th of December, which is Christmas Eve of course. But did you know that in Sweden, the 24th is the main day of celebrations, which made Donald and Friends an even more ingrained part of the Christmas celebrations. This would make for a quaint end to the tale, but we aren't done yet. By the time the 1970s arrived, there was a point where Kalle Anka seemed to be under some kind of threat. The political atmosphere in Sweden at this time was very anti-commercial, so much so there were boycotts at the country's first hosting of the Eurovision Song Contest in 1975. Not even ABBA's victory could sway them. The contest did go ahead in Stockholm as planned, but the sentiment remained strong. The head of children's programming at SVT, sensing the political tensions, made the bold suggestion that Donald and Friends maybe have a year off that Christmas, at least until the peak of these tensions subsided. However, once that got out, the backlash was tremendous. Funny really, how some things are much bigger than politics, and one of those things is a Disney Christmas special featuring Donald Duck. More controversy followed in 1982. For that year's airing, the Ferdinand the Bull short was removed from the broadcast. This was merely done as under presumption from those at SVT who believed younger audiences wouldn't take to it, find it outdated, dull or boring. Which is ironic considering most of the shorts in Kalle Anka were just as old if not older than poor old Ferdinand. Thankfully, backlash again was once again swift and severe from the Swedish public. So much so that in a rush, Ferdinand the Bull was broadcast right after the main programme had ended. A quick fix for sure, but not having it a part of the main show just wasn't the same. Ferdinand dutifully returned to the fold in 1983, where he has remained ever since. A similar problem would occur in 1998, where a segment from Disney's Robin Hood, which again had become a staple in the special for many years, was omitted from that year's broadcast. But the reason wasn't mere presumption like with Ferdinand. This time it was because, well, the rights had run out. It's easy to forget that SVT have to make deals with Disney to gain the rights to show the special, and those deals need renewing every once in a while, even if they've been showing the special since the 60s. Rest assured, a new deal was struck, and Robin & Co were back on screens for next year's broadcast. Speaking of Disney's films, but what became a tradition were the inclusion of special surprise gifts that would be included as part of Kalle Anka. These would be teasers or trailers to upcoming or recent works from the Disney animation studios. They likely would have seemed more exciting in the pre-internet age, when the only other place you'd see such snippets would be the cinema itself. Despite the technological revolution, the surprise gifts continue to be a staple feature, showcasing upcoming work, which looks and seems a world away from the shorts depicted from that original 1958 Christmas special. Another key part of the Swedish broadcast of the Disney special is the presence of a live host, taking on the Walt Disney role that was seen in the original. Filling the role for many decades was Arne Weis. With only a few years off between 1972 and 2002, Weis was the main presenter during Christmas Eve broadcasts on SVT. He would host segments live between programs, addressing the viewer and introducing the upcoming shows. With Kalle Anka being such a big part of Christmas Eve, Arne became just a familiar and integral part of the tradition. So much so that in the early 90s, when he suggested pre-recording his segments, largely so he could spend more actual time with his family around Christmas, it was met with protests. So, until the last year before he retired in 2002, Arne Weis would introduce Kalle Anka live to the millions who were eagerly waiting and watching at home. Though he may not be with us anymore, his association and legacy with the Swedish tradition will never be forgotten. When SVT's monopoly on the Swedish television market was finally broken in 1987, there was some discussion as to how viewing figures for all programs would be affected. And while some naturally dropped, when it came to Kalle Anka, it's been able to hold remarkably firm. Not just against the challenge of rival broadcasters and television channels, but even the internet age. For at least the last 30 years, if not longer, the special has managed to place within the top 5 television shows broadcast each year, not just at Christmas, not just for animation, but across all programmes, only being beaten by big cultural events, such as the annual Melodifestivalen contest, or international sports such as the Olympics. The fact that a television special, originally made in 1958, comprised largely of clips, scenes and shorts from material dating even further back, is remarkable, to say the least. But it shows how deeply ingrained this tradition is for the Swedes, that even with all of the options available nowadays to watch or engage with, a humble compilation of old Disney cartoons still outpowers them all. 2024's broadcast of Kalyanka attracted an audience of just over 3 million viewers, which is just shy of a third of the Swedish population. Not a bad figure at all, if you ask me. When learning about this story, it may be easy to laugh and ridicule this rather bizarre tradition. Why do they take it so seriously? Sitting down to watch the same unchanged programme year after year that was made decades ago? Well, I mean, it does have its positives. For one, each year the emergency services in Sweden record a drop in calls to them during the hour that Donald and pals are on the telly. It's a time where everything and everyone seemingly stops. But I think it's put best by Lena, a curator at the Nordic Museum. They say that the affection that Sweden holds for their Kalyanka is linked to something deeper than tradition. It's the dream of the old peasant village before people moved to towns. Kalyanka is almost like gathering around the fire in old times and listening to fairy tales. That sense of communal gathering, of not just your family, but your whole community coming together for a shared experience. That's something truly special. Not only does it echo the spirit and ethos of the Christmas season, but it's something that is becoming increasingly rarer to find these days in our increasingly chaotic world. So kudos to the people of Sweden for always coming together at Christmas for their beloved Kalyanka. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Makra, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Liam Domain, AJ Mac 200017, Jen, Traffy, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Evan Hart 42 Radio, Tim Ripley, 40-something Manchild, Mr. J McLeod, James Wallace, Ben, Stephen Oliver, Shadowfiend 180X, Swan Ronson, Adam Gamer, Sir Fonzie Daz, Matthew Elif, Pigeon's House, Seraphic Euphoria, Dave Batten, Kevin Mallon, Shah H, Liam Turner, Real Team Foxy Plays, Jenny T, Lovely Dave and Gem, Tyler McLean 316, NJ on DT 84, Jimmy the Bantam, and the Macabre Tavern are AMTV staff members.